In this lesson, we'll be adding a ton of interior partitions. It's time to get inside this building and model some walls. Just like the exterior walls, we want to be as accurate as we can. This is where I start losing some of the AutoCAD veterans. If it feels like you're moving a tad too slow, just remember, this is a new application, but each click in REVIT gets you much further along than the 2D drafting mentality. The objective of this exercise is to put up some partitions. Open the file you've been working on, or open the file called Chapter 3 and follow along. Here's an example of what we'll be doing. The first thing we're going to do is start with a radial wall that's going to be appended to our masonry walls. The second thing we're going to do is throw in a corridor. The third thing is throw in two lavatories. We're going to add a corridor here, add a little partition here, and maybe if we have time, add these 45-degree angles. If we look at it in plan for floor plan level 1, we'll see the layout. So let's get started. The first thing I want you to do is zoom in to where the elevator shafts are. On the Architecture tab, click the Wall button. In the Properties, let's click down until we find Interior 6 1/8 inch Partition 2 hour. Once you've found that wall, on the Draw panel of the Modify Place Wall tab, click the Arc Start End Radius button. Let's set the location line to Finish Face Interior. Let's zoom in on this corner. I'm going to pick my first point at the corner of this masonry wall. I'd like to flip the wall to the other side, so hit the spacebar. Scroll all the way down to the opposite corner and select this endpoint. Now to draw the arc, all you have to do is go to the left, get it approximately at 20 feet, and type in 20 and hit enter. Hit escape a couple times, and you're all set. The next thing we're going to do is throw in this corridor. Right-click on the radial wall and go to Create Similar. For the offset, let's specify 4 feet. The first point I pick is going to be either the midpoint or the intersection of this wall and this reference plane. Once you find one of those snaps, go ahead and pick a point. Move the mouse in this direction and you'll find that there's a 4-foot offset coming from the reference plane. Come all the way down and click the midpoint of that wall. Now let's come straight back and do the same thing. We can resolve it at either the endpoint or intersection right here. Hit escape a couple times. Let's come down to this side and see if our walls are cleaned up. One of them seems good, one of them seems not so good. Select the not so good wall and find the grip in the middle. It says drag wall end. All you need to do is just pull that into the core a little bit more, and it's going to find its way in and it's going to clean itself up. We have some work done on the other end, so let's do the same thing. Go ahead and grab the grip, drag it right to the core of the wall. Up top, grab this wall, grab the grip, drag it in, hit escape. Great, now that these walls are all intersecting correctly, let's go down to the other end here and add some lavs. What I'd like to do is draw a partition going from this wall to this wall, 12 feet inside face from this wall. To do that, I'm going to right-click on the bottom corridor wall and go to Create Similar. For my location line, I'm going to set it to Finish Face Exterior. I'm going to zoom into this wall here, and once I put my cursor on top of it, you'll see that I get a little temporary tooltip that shows up. I'm going to move over till it says 12 feet, and I'm going to pick this wall right here. And if we move straight up north, we're going to come up and just butt right into this wall. Once you see that you're intersected with the wall, go ahead and pick a point. Hit escape a couple times, and we're all set. Select this wall and make sure we're 12 feet away from that exterior wall, and then hit escape a couple times. The next thing I want to do is draw a horizontal line here and another horizontal line here at 6 feet and 12 feet respectively. To do that, I'm going to right-click on this horizontal corridor wall and go to Create Similar. On the Draw panel, I'm going to click the Pick Lines button. I'm going to give it an offset of 6 feet. Remember, just type in 6 and hit Enter. Now I'm going to come down to this wall, and I'm going to hover over it. Notice that we get a little temporary line that shows up. Once we see that, we're going to pick it. Let's hit Escape a couple times. What I'd like to do now is just check the dimension from the inside face, measure between two references. Go ahead and click this button, pick a point here, pick a point here. If your total length is 6 feet, you're good. Hit escape a couple times. Let's offset this line up 12 feet. To do that, let's right-click on this line and create similar. On the drop panel, click the Pick Lines button. For the offset, let's just type in 12. Hover over the inside face of this wall and go ahead and pick it. We now have a 12-foot wall. Hit escape a couple times. On the Quick Access toolbar, click your Measure Between Two References button. Select the inside face of this partition and come up to the inside face of this partition. If it says 12 feet, you're good to go. Hit escape a couple times. The next thing we need to do is trim these walls up. If you go to the Modify tab, let's take a look at a tool we can use called Trim Extend Multiple Elements. The trick of this tool is to select the button. Then what we're going to do is select an edge that we want to cut some walls off. These walls only want to go to this partition, not all the way down the hallway. So the trick is we select our cutting edge first, then we select the walls that we want to trim second. Follow along. On the Modify panel, click the Trim Extend Multiple Elements button. Let's select our cutting edge. That's going to be the inside face of this wall. Now, once we've selected the cutting edge, Revit knows we want to trim multiple items. The trick is to pick the wall on the point you want to keep, not on the point you want to remove. And Revit gives us a little tip. If we zoom in and hover over this wall, we'll see the temporary extension line only extends to the inside face of that wall. That means this is the only part of the wall that's going to remain. Once you see that extension line, go ahead and pick the wall. We're still in the command, so let's come down to this wall and do the same thing. Revit's going to trim these walls off nicely. Hit escape a couple times, and you're all set. Okay, one more wall and we're all set. The last thing we need to do is put a wall right up through here. This is going to be a mechanical chase wall. We're going to put our lavs against this wall. So go ahead and right-click on this bottom line and go to Create Similar. What we want to do is come in to this side 2 feet. Once you see 2 feet show up, go ahead and pick that point and draw a line straight up. Hit escape a couple times. The idea is to have 10 feet in here and 2 feet from this point in. Let's make sure we have that, and we really don't. So for the 9'5" 7/8", let's select that and type in 10 and hit enter. That way we know we have perfect 10 feet inside of our lav. The next thing we're going to do, and the last thing we're going to do, is mirror these walls down to the other side of the corridor. Holding down your Control key, select this wall, this wall, this wall, and this wall. On the Modify panel, click the Mirror Pick Axis button. Zoom out a little bit, pick our handy-dandy center line, and our walls are now mirrored. Hit escape a couple times, scroll in just to check them out to make sure everything's joined in nicely, and you're all set. Yeah, I had you model a lot of walls, but I can't stress enough the importance of having this procedure down pat. But did you notice any similarities between the different commands? Learning how to place interior walls is exactly the same as exterior walls and is exactly the same as a lot of the other procedures you're going to see in Revit.